everyone, it's Star the Flippin' Hippo. Thank you for joining us on our YouTube channel at Flippin' Hippos, and welcome to Back to Basics episode 14. Today we're going to talk about shipping. We're going to talk more about the process of pulling your orders once they've sold, getting them packaged, getting them ready and the labels on, and getting them mailed out to your buyers. So this is going to be like the whole process of shipping once an item is sold. We're not going to discuss free shipping versus charge shipping or anything like that, but I do have a video. It's a year ago. It's probably pretty dated by now because there's been some changes and stuff, but I do have a video about the pros and the cons of free shipping versus charging for shipping. So I'll link that in the description box for you guys. And then I did do an updated video at the beginning of this year on the shipping increases and changes at the post office for first class shipping, and the rates went up. So I do have an updated 2019 shipping video as far as that is concerned. So I'll link that down below as well. So if you were looking for a video about free versus charged, or the rate increases, or how first class works, those will be down below. Today we're just going to talk about the process of actually shipping items that have sold. So the first thing you wanted to decide, did you pre-pack your item before you stored it? And we talked about that yesterday when we discussed a good inventory system to have. So if they've been pre-packed and the weight's already in the listing, you're already ahead of the game. If that's not the way you do your inventory, that's fine, but once you pull the items, you're going to have to pack each one and weigh it to ensure that you're putting the proper weight in before you print your labels. And that's really important that you put that proper weight in to print your labels. It is never ever a good idea to try to cheat the system or put less weight. It's a federal crime, and it's just dishonest. It's just not morally good. So just make sure you're weighing everything properly, that you're rounding up, and that's whether you pre-pack and put the weight in the listing when you list, or when you or if you put the weight in at the time you're printing out the shipping labels. For instance, if something is 8.3 ounces, you have to pay for 9, so you need to be putting in 9 ounces. If it's 7.1, you have to pay for 8 ounces. The only exception to that, if you're using eBay to print your labels and you're using the special discount we get as eBay sellers through the eBay system set up with the post office, our first class goes all the way up to £1. For lay people at the post office, first class rates only go up to 13 ounces, and they start paying the priority rates at 14, but we get a special deal as eBay sellers to go all the way up to £1, and that can be 15.99 ounces can go first class. So just make sure that everything is being weighed properly, that you're rounding up. Make sure that you're choosing first and priority correctly, and remember that extra room we get for first class. And then when you pull your items, I guess we should have talked about pulling your items first, but that's okay. When you pull your items, there's like 3 basic ways people will pull their items. Some people will take their phone on the eBay app to their storage room, their storage unit, wherever they keep their items, and just go through their solds and pull that way. Some people will print the labels off first, and that's if you've pre-packed everything and you've got your weights good to go in the listings already, that is a very viable, awesome way to save time. You could just print your labels, take the labels with you to wherever you store your items, and pull them and stick your labels on as you go. Or you can write a list off of the page on your Seller Hub where you can pull up all the items awaiting shipment. You can write each item down, where it's located, and you can go to the print labels screen and get the people's names ahead of time and put those on the list if you want, so you can write them on the package. All 3 ways are okay. Which one is going to be fastest for you or best for you is going to be, I really think, case by case. Because everyone works different, everyone organizes differently, everybody's stuff is stored differently, everybody's selling a different amount of stuff each day. So however you need to do it to streamline it for you to be the fastest is what I would recommend for you personally. And I don't know what that would be, but just be willing to experiment a little, I guess, and find out how to streamline it best for you and your business so that you're going fast, because you don't want to waste time on shipping. Those items have already sold. You want to get them out to your buyer as quick as you can, and you want to start listing more items so you can make more money, right? The one thing I would never ever recommend, and I do hear that some people do this, some people will pull one by one all day long as items sell, and I've never understood that. I really think that's a super waste of time, and maybe I think that way just because we're volume sellers, but you know, on any given day, from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, we could sell anywhere from 6 to 15, 18 items sometimes. And if every time we sell something I'm running to pull it, that's just a waste of time to me, because I spend my day doing other things and chunks of time, and I don't know, like I can't see dropping everything every time we made a sale to pull an item. If you only sell 1 or 2 things a day and you do this as a hobby, or you're a small seller, maybe that makes sense for you. But I can't drop everything 10 times a day to pull something. It makes more sense. The way we do it is a list, and that way works best for us just because of our situation. I cannot pull the orders. I cannot move the bends around. I cannot bend over. I cannot lift. So I physically really am worthless when it comes to pulling our sold items. So Keith pulls them for us. He still works outside of the home. So I have a list ready for him. It takes me 5 minutes to do the list. I hand it to him when he gets home. He pulls everything, and then I can sit in my chair and do the last step that we'll talk about in just a second. So yeah, again, it's going to depend on your situation and how your life is set up and how your business is set up. But just try to find the best, fastest way, the most streamlined way for you. I do recommend, even if you pre-pack, to kind of give your stuff a peek once more, just like one final eyeball, one final quality assurance look. Because sometimes some things that are long tail have been sitting around for a while in the bag, and you want to make sure they're not dusty or whatever. Shoes can get dry rot, I've heard. I haven't been doing shoes long enough to have experienced that, but I don't know. I just feel like when things are in storage, it's just a good idea to double check it. It's always a good idea to double check it, because maybe you could fold it a little bit better to send it to a buyer than you folded it when you put it in the bin. You know what I mean? So I do recommend one last quality assurance. You can wrap your items in tissue paper or plastic wrap if you like. Like I said, we pre-package everything so it's ready to go. So I do, at the last step, wrap it in the eBay branded tissue paper that we get with our store coupon. We don't pay for that. That's a luxury item that I don't really think is a necessity for the business that we would ever spend our capital on. But because we have like 2 shelves stocked full of eBay tape that we already stocked up on, we now use our store coupon for tissue paper. So when I'm doing that final step of quality assurance, I just dump the item out of the bag, eyeball it, make sure it's still good, put it in the tissue paper. We put in our card that says thank you for your order, and I do recommend you guys do those. If you're not at a point where you have enough capital or can afford it for your business to justify buying business cards or thank you cards, you can always just put in a handwritten one. Or you don't have to if you don't want to. Some people don't like to. I recommend it, but that's, what we like to do. And again, if you don't believe in them or like them, it's your business. But that's the last step that we do during quality assurance is we get stuff wrapped in tissue paper, we get our card put in there, and then get the labels stuck on the packages. I do recommend using a scan sheet if you have more than one item. If you don't know how to use a scan sheet, let me know in the comments, and I will either do a video on how to do it, or I will walk you through the steps on how to do it. I think I tried to do a video on how to do a scan sheet before, and there was really no way around showing your buyers' names. I think that was the issue I had with it, like when I was screen sharing. When you're in the back end doing the shipping, when you do the scan sheet, if I'm showing someone how to do it step by step, I don't think there's a way to not show the buyer's names and addresses, which is a big no-no. But I can look into that again and see if there's a way to do it or a way around it now that I'm more seasoned and a little bit better at screen sharing in YouTube. But yeah, definitely let me know if you don't know how to do that, because everyone should know how to do that. Everyone should be doing that. It is a lifesaver, not only for you, but for your postal worker. And a happy postal worker is a really good thing to have. And then as far as feedback, and this really doesn't have much to do with shipping, except that a lot of people do ask, when do you leave the feedback for your buyers? Do you leave it once they pay, once it's shipped, once they've left it for you? That's a personal decision, again, that I can't make for you. I can only tell you what we do and what I recommend. Here's the bottom line. You can't leave negative feedback for your buyers. You just can't. You're not allowed. The only feedback you can leave for buyers is positive. And if you try to backhandedly or passively aggressively leave negative feedback, eBay will have it removed. So you can only leave positive, and if your comment says this guy was a turd and he never paid and he returned a ripped shirt, they're going to remove it. It's unfortunate because I think that there are some buyers who should be allowed to have negative feedback from us sellers to warn other sellers, but that's why certain Facebook groups exist. So because you could only leave positive, I recommend just turning on the automatic feedback assistant eBay has for us. We have ours set up so that immediately when they pay, they get their positive feedback. And it's actually a cool little system that you can use when you set up the assistant. You have some choices about when you want the assistant to automatically leave the feedback for you. And you could have one statement that it leaves, or you can put in several different choices and tell it to randomly choose. I think we have like 5 different sayings that it will randomly choose to put for us. You know, A1 buyer, paid immediately, great to work with, stuff like that. There's just like a lot you can do with it, so I think it's kind of neat to have. And it saves you a lot of time and effort, especially if you're doing a lot of volume like us. We just don't have the time to sit down once a week. Even, you know, if we're selling only, say, 10 items a day, I don't have time, and neither does Keith, to sit down once a week and manually leave feedback 70 different times for 70 different buyers. And sometimes some weeks it's a lot more than 70 items that we've sold on eBay, especially if we have a great weekend, right? So we just don't have the time to sit and do it manually. I don't see any point to it. The only drawback is sometimes a buyer does end up being a total complete turd, for lack of a better word. Sometimes the buyers do end up just scamming or just being a pain in my butt, and I'm like, and I already left positive feedback for them through the automatic system, and I really wish I hadn't. But you know what? That happens so rarely that it's not worth not having the automatic feedback system or assistant set up for you. I can probably count on one hand. That would be like one person I didn't want to leave positive for. What a shame. So yeah, I just think you should just set it up. Forget it. You can't leave negative feedback for your buyers, and you can't tell the truth. If it wasn't a positive experience, you're just not allowed. Cool system, eBay. Okay, so let's move on. Drop off versus pick up. Do you take your items to the post office, or do you leave them for your postman to pick up? We take ours in, but there's something to be said about placing all your items out in a bin or a bucket or a bag on the porch and having your postman pick it up and take it for you. You're supposed to set it up legit. You're supposed to go on the post office website and set up a pickup. Now, most postmen aren't going to enforce that. Most of them are decent enough people that if you leave all your packages out there, they'll pick them up. hopefully you're leaving a scan sheet with them so your postal worker only has to do one scan and not sit on your porch and scan 40 items. They don't like that. And we were told by our postal guy at our post office that there are some postal workers that do get incensed if you don't set up a pickup. So if they get to your house and they weren't expecting to pick up a whole boatload of packages, and there's a whole boatload of packages, they'll get upset and refuse to pick them up. And I guess they kind of have a leg to stand on, from what I understand, because technically you're supposed to be setting up your pickup every day. And if you have a postal worker that's not the nicest of people, they can say, well, you didn't set it up, I'm not taking them. Now, I don't really see that happening very often. Most people are on good speaking terms with their postal workers. They leave them waters and cereal bars, or, Christmas gifts, or just random stuff during the summer when it's hot. You can leave a bottle of ice cold water out there for them. A lot of people are really nice to their postal workers and have a good relationship with them, and you don't have to preset it. You can just set your stuff out there and they know you. But there are those that can get pretty snippy about the rules. So just, make sure you know yours and what they're going to do. And then a drawback to having them picked up off of your porch, there's two drawbacks. The first being, if you happen to have a postal worker that's not one of the really good ones and yours is lazy, they take your stuff and they don't scan it, or they don't bother with your scan sheet, and your items go back to the post office and say they don't get scanned there, they might not get scanned until the next day, and you're looking at all these late dings. So, that can be a drawback, and I don't hear about it happening often, but I have heard about it happening to people. I know that when we drop ours off, they scan our sheet right there, and we get a receipt, and the items are checked in, and we shipped on time according to eBay. But if you check the tracking number sometimes the next check-in is the arrival. So sometimes something that's checked in here in Pennsylvania will go all the way to California before it's checked off as delivered. And from here to California, there were a lot of places where it stopped, a lot of post offices that should have been scanning it through, so that when you check the tracking number, you can see arrived here, left here. You know what I mean? You guys have all looked up tracking numbers and seen what I'm talking about. They're supposed to tell you every time they arrive and leave a postal destination, but they don't always do that. So if you have a lazy postal worker who grabs all the stuff off your porch, throws it in his truck, and the next time that thing is scanned in is a day or two later, you could be looking at a lot of late shipping dings and some trouble. But again, that's rare. There are mean postal workers out there. We all hear the horror stories and read the horror stories on Facebook every single day, but I really think it's a lot more rare than we think it is. And then the second drawback to having them picked up off your porch is you got to make sure you live in a good enough neighborhood that you can do that. You don't want to be putting out all these packages, enticing and inviting bad people to steal them off of your porch. If you live in a good neighborhood or whatever, that's fine. Or if you have like a vestibule, you can leave them in for your postal worker to get into, to get them out of. That's good too. But yeah, just be aware of where you live. Here comes the train. And what kind of postal worker you have. If you are on good terms with your postal worker and you guys like each other and you live in a great neighborhood, leave them out on the porch. You know what I mean? If you take them into the post office yourself, get a receipt, you guys. The biggest favor you can do for yourself is to get a receipt. I know there are people out there who will tell you that that is a waste of time, that they don't have time for that, they can't be bothered for it, that they just take all their packages in. They know me there. They see me. I put them on the counter. Good for you. And the one day they don't have time to check them in and you have all those shipping dings, don't come crying to me when your top rated seller status is taken away. And I don't mean to sound mean, but that's how I really feel about it. If you're only shipping 1 or 2 things a day and you can risk those dings and your account can absorb that, okay. But say you have a really good weekend and you take 40 packages in and Oh, they know me here. They'll check them in. You put them on the counter and they don't get checked in. Whose account can survive 40 late shipping dings? You can't. Your shipping rate percentage is going to go so low, you're going to lose your top rated seller status, which not only results in a loss of discount on final value fees, a loss in discount on your shipping with eBay. Buyers like to see that top rated. So, that's on you. If you can't be bothered or you don't have time to ensure that your packages are all checked in, scanned in, and eBay knows you did your job and shipped them on time, and you can't be bothered or you don't have the time to properly ship your items and make sure they're checked in, that's how you want to run your business, that's fine. Not me. I don't want late shipping dings. I don't need them. We do our best every single day to pull our shipping on time and get it to the post office on time. So if I have to wait in line to get my sheet scanned, I'm going to wait in line to get my sheet scanned, just to ensure that eBay knows we did what we were supposed to do. And now with this guaranteed shipping program they introduced last year, eBay's guaranteeing buyers that something's going to be there on a certain day, and if it doesn't get there in time and your items were scanned in at the post office on time, if you did what you were supposed to do and shipped it on time, eBay will make the buyer happy, whether it's to refund them or whatever. eBay will take care of it because you did what you were supposed to do. But if you're in too much of a hurry and you just drop your packages on the counter and you did everything you were supposed to do and you shipped them on time, but you don't have proof of that, if they weren't scanned in until the next day and the next date over, and then they were late to your customer, you're going to be held responsible for that guaranteed shipping. And I just don't think it's worth it. I don't think losing money, losing discounts, losing buyers' trust in you, or getting all those dings is worth it. I always have time to do things the right way, I guess. Alright guys, that is it for me. Again, I will leave the links down below to the videos about free versus charged, and sorry, my throat was dry, and the new rates for 2019 and what they're doing with first class now. That's more like priority, and you guys can watch those if you want. If you have any other questions or anything I didn't address, please let me know in the comments down below. And just a reminder guys, this Back to Basics video series is 100% interactive. So I want to hear from you guys. I want to know, what do you want to learn more about? What do you want to hear me talk about? What would you like to see me screen share and teach you guys? Anything, if it's eBay related, Poshmark related, Mercari, reselling, sourcing, anything related to being a reseller that you want to learn more about, let me know and I will put it on the list of videos to make for you guys. Do me a favor, smash the like button before you leave. If you haven't already and you'd like to, please subscribe to our channel and help us feed a hungry hippo. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We're at Flippin' Hippos. Until next time, you guys have a good night.